All right, looks like we are live. All right, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all having a good start to your week. We are going to get ready and get started here in a moment. Just wanted to say there's just a couple things that we're just gonna update you on. Just a couple of things I'm letting you know that what I'm looking at. This is gonna be more of just a Q&A session slash like an update session from me, where you guys will be able to give you some insight on what I'm looking for, and I'll allow you guys to ask any questions you might have regarding the setups themselves, anything ABC related or just trading in general. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on chat here on the live stream as well as here in the Discord. So if you guys are here in the Discord, hanging out, like I said, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on chat and make sure I don't miss any questions or anything you might want me to look at, or like I said before, any questions you might have. But I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on that. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to look at is BTC. And what I always like to do is I like to kind of just look at this from a fresh perspective, just in case for those who may not know what I'm currently looking at on the macro scale. Just letting you guys know like some of the different options or variations of what could be happening. Once you understand the larger picture, the bigger picture of what could be going on, you definitely it'll definitely be a little bit easier to dissect these quote unquote smaller time frames. So from there, once we understand the bigger picture, then we can go in and kind of work our way into what's going on at the moment. And yeah, from there, I'll be able to give you guys some different thoughts, some different things I'm thinking, and hopefully I can help you guys out, and figure what the next move is, or at least give you guys the best available positions to play either side of the coin. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing I want to look at is the larger scale, and we're primarily going to be focusing on the entirety of the bear market of what we've been putting in this gigantic downtrend that we started since, what was this, the beginning of last November. Yeah, so just about over a year we've been in this bear market. And to me personally, and what I see going on here is that we do have a much larger A to a B to a C. All right. And within every single one of these waves, there's its own set of ABCs within them. And this is what I primarily like to see. It doesn't necessarily have to happen all the time, but something I noticed on the much larger scale, or at least on the macro picture, that majority of the time you can get a nice, good set of ABCs within each individual larger wave. Um, so to me, that's primarily what I'm looking at. And if this is going to be the main idea, the main pivot I need BTC to get back above in order to be a little bit more bullish is at 17,600. If BTC can remain and get above that and remain above it, I'm definitely going to have a little bit more of a bias to the upside. Now, doesn't mean that we're going into a bull market. I don't think so. Definitely well could be, but at the very least, I want to consider this to be a good retesting market to where we come up, pump, and definitely retest some of the little bit of the local or nearer resistances on a much larger scale. This at around 25K. It's a good area. Possibly like in this region up here is a good area, but I don't necessarily think we're going to be putting in new highs anytime soon. So we'll have to keep that in consideration. Like I said, I'm mostly going to be approaching this as this. If a pump does occur, I'm going to be approaching it as a retesting pump, not necessarily a actual market changing or a market cycle changing pump here. Um, and one of the things that I can come up with, or at least um, see that kind of back that up, is we talked about this being an ABC, right? What if, by chance, all right, that this is a much larger A wave, all right? And, guys, this is just a little bit more of a larger term kind of like hypothetical scenario. Um, not necessarily banking on this happening, but easily it could be in the cards as well. What if this is bottom? We come up, put in a higher retest, and then eventually come down and put in another wave to the downside. That is almost equivalent in size to the ending of the bull market here. So to be honest, it could be happen. This is something that could be happening or in the works. It's probably going to be a long time until we figure this out, or until this does play out. I just have to keep that in mind just in case. But for me personally, at the moment, I like to just take it a little bit more of a nearer term or more present term perspective, not trying to go too far into the future and trying to predict these larger moves. But for me personally, I am considering this to be in the cards just in case. But until we get a little bit more of a clearer structure, to me personally, I'm sticking with the idea that this is going to be a larger potential bottom. Now, when I say that, doesn't necessarily mean the low that we put in down here and around that 15,420 region is going to be the bottom. It could be. I'm not necessarily leaning on that too much, just because we're still kind of fighting below this 17,600 region, and it looks like we didn't get a perfect retest, but it looks like it's having a hard time getting back above that. If that is the case, actually now's a good time to go into the smaller time frame or smaller perspective. All right, one of the things I'm currently seeing is, first I wanted to take a look at this wave here. Now we do have a larger A to a B to a C. All right. And the pivot of this smaller structure is going to be just about the same region as the low of the A here. So I'm going to prioritize that. If you guys want to, I can mark that out for you. But for me personally, I'm going to prioritize that level at 17,600 as a more important level to get back above, just because it's the larger structure within the larger macro wave. And for me personally, until we can get back above that, I kind of have to lean a little bit more bearish. If that is the case, maybe this C wave that I have drawn out here isn't done yet. All right. Something I always like to say, or something I always like to see, is that a lot of these waves have an individual set of ABCs within them. ABC. Maybe I should draw the trend lines just to make things a little bit clearer. A, B, C. A, B, C. And what if this is going to be an A to a B to a C, to where we come back down and put in a new set of lows? Absolutely in the cards as well. And so I have to kind of play or take the trades, trying to back up the decision of whatever direction I decide that I want to take, or whatever the direction I'm looking to take a trade on. Sometimes it's both, sometimes it's one. Most of the time, I try to aim for playing both sides if I can, if the setups are there, just in case that one idea isn't necessarily the or has the best probabilities. So in this case, I am playing both directions. Let me just show you how I'm doing so. So as of right now, I'm currently taking a long position off of this ABC. Now, it's a very tiny wick, but we did get a slight low past the low here at that 15. What is that? That 15,470, 15,450, or 15,460. So for me, as long as we're above that, that is a good sign to take, or that is a sign for me to take a long. And we do have the slight probabilities of longs being played out, or at least a little bit more upside. Until that is broken, like I said, we are still currently below that 17,600. So I have to prioritize a little bit more of the bears, or at least a little bit more downside price action. But right now, this is a pivot to start to possibly think of another pump coming. Now, going back to what I said before, if this is the situation to where this is going to be an A to a B to a C, the question is there a position in this region where I can take, or short I can take in this area to kind of to be able to capitalize on a much larger move to the downside, just in case that is the situation that does happen. Now, I know a lot of people are talking about lower levels of like 10K to be reached. Is very well in the cards. The question, a more important thing for me to ask is, if that is going to happen, how can I get in, or how can I take advantage of that? And to me, when I take a look at this area price action here, I see a very nice setup as this being an A to a B to a C. Now, we do have that entry being at about Where is that entry at? But that's 16,811. So if we can get back down below there, I'm definitely going to take a short position and try to catch the larger swing, a larger move to the downside if that does happen. Now, an alternative to that is, let's say I get rid of this. What if this ABC I just mentioned before, what if that is a larger A? All right. Now, what if we come back down and then put in another high? Now, where we come back down, it can vary. One of the options on the table at the moment is that we do have a possible ABC to the downside. So we have an A to a B to a C. If we can get back below that 16,665 region, all right. Actually, I'm just going to highlight it like this. If we can get back below this region, me personally, that's going to be a little bit more of a nice clear setup, and that's going to allow me to show a larger B wave being completed, and then we can come back up, put in another high, and to me, on a much larger time frame or a much larger perspective of what I'm looking at, this looks like a very nice setup for me to take on a short, and I definitely would be willing to move my short entry up to here to take that instead of the 17 or 16,800. All right. But that's only if we do not get a higher high. Because regardless of how this plays out, if we can get a higher high past the pivot of the A, I'm sorry, that level is around that 17,430. It's a little bit more accurate. But if we can get a pivot past that high and form a completed structure, even if we don't come down and put in another low past here, to me, until we get a lower low past that level I just mentioned, this can still be counted as a B, and I would have to see another push to the upside. So anyway, regardless of how this plays out, until we get it higher high past that 17,432, I cannot play shorts at that level. I would have to stick to that 16,800 level. If it does come down before putting a new high, unfortunately, that's not going to be the nicest setup to play or the cleanest setup. But I have to take that trade just in case we do not get that higher high. Even though I would like to see that, doesn't necessarily mean that it has to happen. So let's see. Let me just make sure. Okay, cool. Guys, how do I sound in the YouTube stream or if you're watching on David Text Live channel or the Twitch channel? Please let me know how the volume or how the sound is. If I sound a little distorted or anything, just give me a heads up. I know in the Discord you guys said I'm doing good, but I just wanted to double check if those watching on the stream end. So let's see. And as well as the short position I'm looking to take, like I said, I mentioned the long down here. And that's pretty much the main. Okay, Vlad says all good and awesome. So those are the two main positions I'm looking out for. Like I said, I am a long from down here. So regardless, if we do come up and continue to pump past this region, that's fine by me. As well as if the availability of a short setup comes to where we can come down and actually catch a bigger potential down move to me as well. That's also a great opportunity. So I'll just mark out the levels one more time. And like I said, guys, if you have any questions regarding how I'm viewing this, any questions regarding ABCs or in general, please feel free to ask. Let's see. All right. So those are the two main positions. As of right now, that 16,800 is the main entry, unless we get in a higher high past that's 17,420 or 430. Sorry. Or the high of this peak here. Me personally, I have to wait until that happens before I can take a short entry. But as of now, that 16,800 is the available entry for BTC. Let's go to Ethereum. So Ethereum is playing out a little bit. It's pretty similar in some aspects, but it's also different. Let's just take a look at the larger perspective here. Now, there's a couple different options here. Same thing as BTC. I got to focus on the majority of what the bear market has been putting in. Just because to me, this is one continuous downtrend. Me personally, as of right now, we do have an A to a B to a C. And the question lies is just a completion of a downtrend, or if it is this just one leg and we're getting a retest, or we're waiting for another high to be put in, and then we're going to be looking for another leg lower. And this kind of backs up the idea that I had for BTC. Maybe ETH wants to come and put in one more high before we come back down and put in and continue the downtrend. Definitely, absolutely could be in the cards. The only way that I would want to see, though, if that is the case, if I would want to see a higher high past the peak at about 2028 be broken and then come back below, as well as it doesn't necessarily have to do that. The other availability or the other option that I would, wouldn't mind seeing as well is if maybe this was just a B and then we're coming back down and putting a lower low. Now, if that is the case, I need a low of 873.75 to be broken, and hopefully, if price can show signs of a reversal, depending on where this goes, I would need to see some sort of reclaim of that level, and then from there, I would maybe see a larger push to the upside. We'll have to see how this develops. That's just an example. If that is the case, I'm definitely going to be taking a long off of that 873.75. Once price can get back below and eventually, hopefully, get a reclaim back above the. If we don't put in another low, the next availability for a larger short is going to be that 2037. And if we do put in a higher high at that region again, I definitely will be still looking for a lower load to be put in. It's just we were just waiting on an extra step. And me personally, that's very well as likely as the other scenario to where we just continue downward. So that's just one of the things I'm looking at on a much larger scale / perspective. Let's move in here or zoom in and let's see what we can get with the quote unquote, smaller perspective. Me personally, all right, we do have this ABC here. All right. On that ABC, the entry is going to be at that 1178-ish region. And me personally, I'm holding this long just in case we do come up and put in that high at about 2037. Doesn't have to necessarily do that. I'm just playing the position just in case. Unfortunately, ETH did not put in a lower low like BTC did. So I have to play the macro entry here. And yeah, as of right now, I'm still holding that. Let's go over the availability of a larger, or I guess more downside, just in case, just to play devil's advocate here. One of the most important things that, like I said, if I'm looking to try to play both sides of the coin, I need to be able to see a opposing setup form, regardless of what direction I'm playing, or regardless of what direction I'm favoring. In this case, if I'm favoring the upside, I need to be able to find a short position just in case I'm wrong. And to me, there's a couple different options for a short setup. Mostly, there's two main options. One is this ABC here. Right, let me go to a 1 hour. Maybe a 30-minute. Yeah, that's going to be better. So we do have an ABC here with the peak being here, I believe. Yes. So since this high has been put past the A, to me, that shows a completed setup. Now, if we can get back below 1236.45, I definitely will be taking a short just in case. The other scenario is that what if this ABC I just mentioned, highlighted in blue, what if this is just one uptrend? We have an ABC completed for the downside here to form a B. And now what if we're waiting for another high to be put in? To me, that's a little bit more of a better developed short setup. And to me personally, I would prefer this to happen, but doesn't necessarily have to. So I would need to see a high past this peak, which is at about 1317, to be put broken and reclaimed back below. If that is the case, I definitely will be taking shorts off of that region. Like I said, doesn't necessarily have to happen because until we get that higher high, I have to play that 1237 region. So as of right now, I have my entry basically waiting to be triggered. If that does happen, great, fantastic. I also have the long position from 1179, and I'll pretty much allow these two positions to fight out and see who wins overall. And hopefully we can catch a much larger move in regardless of what direction we're playing. We have entries for both sides, and hopefully we can get an answer here sooner than later. I'll just mark out the other level here for ETH, but primarily that's what I'm looking for. All right. Let's go over, let's see, LTC. So LTC is slightly different than Bitcoin and Ethereum. Going back to a little bit more of a larger perspective here. Now, we do have a completed setup or a completed larger wave structure on LTC here. And we are currently forming another ABC here. Nope, I messed up on the A. Okay. So, does this mean that this is a completed wave and maybe we can come up and try to test higher? Or is this ABC just a larger A? We're forming a B, and then we're going to come back down and form a C. Both options are just as probable, in my opinion. I'll kind of have to see how things play out here in the near future. But this is definitely something to look for in the much larger perspective going into hopefully completing a larger bear market. I'm not necessarily leading that direction 100%. That's just an option I have to consider. Um, Another option is that maybe this is just one larger A. We come back down, put in a pullback, and then we continue higher. And this was the bottom down here. Very well in the cards as well. I have to kind of have to play my opportunities as I see them. And those are definitely two different scenarios for the same setup that I see. Now, knowing that, let's go into the smaller perspective here and see if we can figure out what's going on. So, me personally, we do have, I would need to illustrate this. We do have an A to a B to a C, right? And to me, that is a much larger A wave. We have a very sharp decline for a B wave, and then we have a continuation higher for a C wave with an ABC within the C. Now, for me personally, I know some people did take that short position. I did not. The only reason why is because this ABC compared to the larger structure here is not necessarily that big in comparison. So for me, I wasn't necessarily, wouldn't say comfortable, but I wasn't necessarily relying on that setup too much. I would rather take the position off of the more macro pivot, which is going to be at about, I'll mark that out for you here. At about 73.20. And from there, I'm going to be taking a short position, and hopefully we can get either a much larger pullback, catch that, or as well as the potential with possibly putting in a new low past the $40 region. So if that can happen, fantastic. We'll have to see how it happens, how it develops. But me personally, that's something I am working with. So that's the only position for LTC at the moment. I do want to go over Matic because I have been looking at Matic over the past where is it? I have been looking at Matic over the past couple days, and one of the things I noticed is we do have a much larger potential for this being an A to a B to a C, kind of similar to how ETH and LTC have been forming, or at least the setups that formed in between. The primary example being this. I actually really like that wave, and we are currently sitting under the macro pivot. I did not catch that entry, unfortunately, just because I wasn't necessarily. Oh, come on, I wasn't necessarily eyeing Matic at that moment, and it was just a little messy going into that, so I didn't necessarily play it. But I do have this. I am eyeing this position just in case. And to me personally, like I said, um, I am going to be looking for a much larger move to the downside on Matic, just because of the setup as well as just what Matic is based off of. I know that Matic is a big NFT network, and NFTs have not been doing well. So kind of combining the two, just a mix of setup slash personal bias. I think that we can definitely see a much larger trend to the downside, or at least a much larger move to the downside on Matic. So I'm definitely more willing to take a short on that. Um, but just keep in mind, I'm going to show you guys the setup here, what I'm looking at. Unfortunately, I did not get in. I'm going to believe I'm going to try to get it on a retest if I can. I will let you guys know if that is the case. But I am looking at this setup as an entry point for Matic if you do want to try to catch that short. To me, this is an A to a B to a C. And as long as we're below that, where's the pivot? As long as we're below that 89.17 for Matic, it definitely is a good short position. And, like I said, I'm looking for a much larger downside swing. So hopefully we can catch and capitalize on that. Now, I only am going to be using half risk on this. So I'm using 3% risk on 3% stop loss at the moment. I'm only going to be risking 1.5%, just because it's a little bit more of an altcoin. It's subject to a little bit more volatility. As even though I am using a larger stop loss to try to protect myself from that, to me personally, I'm not willing to put a full size position on this trade. So I'm only currently using half risk while using 3% stop loss. And like I said, hopefully we can catch a much larger move. I'm going to go ahead and mark that entry for you guys, just in case you aren't interested in trying to take a short position on Matic. I guess let's see. I'll do BNB for because I know we've been doing that quite a while the last couple times. Oh, BNB is interesting. All right, so BNB has a much larger ABC short setup here. As long as you're below this macro pivot, it's going to be at that 336.80. If we could stay back below there, that's a much larger pivot. And to me, you definitely have a larger move to the downside as a potential. I guess the ultimate target is to get back below that 183.40 region. And if you can get back below there, to me, that completes a much larger ABC setup from a bullish perspective. Let me see. All right, I'm going to use this one just because this is potentially part of the C wave. So A to a B to a C. So I would need to see that to be a little bit more bullish on a macro perspective. But I do like that setup as a whole. And we'll have to see what happens. I mean, there is another potential long setup here as well for Matic. You do have the availability of this ABC playing out. I do want to get rid of this though. All right, and if BNB can get back below 249.70 and get back above, that would be a potential long position. So I would just keep my eye out on that. And even though I do say that we do have a much larger bear structure, I am going to prioritize that. But I also have to keep in mind that if this bullish setup does form, it could complete a possible larger pullback. So what do I mean by that? This could be a larger A. Maybe it'll be easier to just illustrate it. You have a larger A with, if we put in a lower low, the larger B being completed, and then that can definitely come up and put in another high. That looks a little bit better in my opinion. And I'm definitely wouldn't be surprised at this kind of setup playing out. So definitely keep an eye out on that as well. Remember, you need that 250 level past that pivot of the previous A to be broken and then reclaimed in order to take a long position. So That's pretty much going to do it for anything crypto related. Um, we're going to move on to the traditional markets. So if you guys have any questions for me before I do that regarding crypto or anything else, please, now's the time to ask. Like I said, we're going to be moving on here shortly. All right. All right. Let's go on to traditional markets here. Oh, that's the same. That's a crypto list. Let's do the SPY. All right. So the S&P is still dancing around this region. Let me just make sure I'm going to look good here. Okay. The S&P is still dancing around this region. Now, ultimately, we do have a larger setup here with an A, B, C off of this setup here. And as long as we're above that 362.18, I'm definitely going to be bullish on a little bit of a longer scale or a larger scale / longer time frame. To me, this looks like one continuous trend. So if I can see a nice clear break, which we might be in the process of working with now, I would need to see a little bit more of a pullback. But if we can get a nice clear separation and trend and then a continuation upwards, to me, I would definitely consider that a bearish continuation setup. And I would possibly consider that this would be a reversal to continue down lower. Um, I have to wait till that develops personally. I'm not necessarily leaning on this yet. As long as we're above here, the longs are going to be prioritized, and we can definitely just continue upwards. We don't necessarily, even though we do have this set up, we can easily just push right past it. So we'll have to see how this forms in the future. But to me, this is one continuous trend. I'm not too dead set on being bearish on the S&P yet, but that's pretty much it for that. Let's go over. I think the Dow Jones is a very similar situation. Yeah, similar situation. We do have an A to a B to a C. As long as we're above the larger A, which is going to be at that 29,650. Definitely going to be a little bit more bullish. Same thing with the S&P. To me, this is one continuous trend. I would need to see a larger break in structure and then a continuation higher in order for me to be a little bit more bearish past that pivot. But until that happens, I'm not dead set on a reversal just yet. The DXY, I know DXY is important here. So the DXY did have a bullish setup, which is something I did call as a concern for assets in general. You do have this ABC with an ABC within the C. I'm primarily looking at this one. If the DXY can remain above that 105, definitely a call for concern as the DXY could be a little bit more bullish. But right now, we're kind of fighting in this region. The ultimate macro level to keep an eye out on, which we're getting kind of close to. If the DXY can remain below 103, this is a much larger ABC setup on the macro for the DXY with an A to a B and all this being a C with an ABC within the C. So to me, that 103 region off of this macro pivot of the A here is definitely a larger bearish confirmation for me. And for assets, that's definitely a good sign. So that's why I'm kind of willing to play both sides of the coin when it comes to BTC and everything else. I know the DXY does have some sort of inverse correlation, and not necessarily always the case, but based on what I see here, it could definitely go either way. If we reclaim 105 and continue upwards, it's definitely gonna be bearish for Bitcoin. But if we come back below 103 and continue downwards, definitely gonna be more bullish. Sorry, definitely gonna be more bullish for assets in general. So, I'm kind of I kind of have conflicting thoughts about it, but these are the levels I'm primarily looking at. And for me personally, I would like to see um, one of these levels be claimed or broken, depending on which direction you want to look. You want to look at this as, or depending on what perspective. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the DXY. Let's go over ES. Same thing. I need to look for a clear break in trend for me to a clear break in trend, and then a retest the upside to be a little bit more bullish on this as an asset. The US 100, same exact thing. It's a little bit different off of the way this has been developing. This kind of no, I still need to see a larger separation for me to be a little bit more bearish, but I need I need a little bit more of a pullback with a continuation higher for me to be a little bit more bearish. I'm sorry, bearish in this asset or just in markets in general. Let's go over gold, silver. Just make sure I'm not missing anything in chat here. Okay, cool. We're good. All right. So when it comes to gold, gold has a little bit of a bearish setup forming. I'll go over that here shortly. I just want to go over the much larger setup now. Gold has a gigantic ABC. I want to look at it from a weekly. Right? With the macro pivot being at the 1919 region. Now, keep in mind, this is a multi-decade ABC going on here. So these price levels are not going to be exact. I want you guys to think of it more as a zone. You know, possibly like a zone like this, to where price is not going to respect that as much, just because it's such a large setup here that I think price definitely has room to wiggle in between this region before ultimately coming back down. With that being said, if I go to a little bit of a smaller perspective here, I might have to go to like a 2-day. Yeah. So if I go to a 2-day, one of the things that I'm looking at is this being a larger A to a B to a C, right? This is going to be 1A. And we have another A to a B to a C to form a B. A, B, C to a B. And now with that AB being completed, the final, I guess, the final push or the final part of this setup I'm looking to be completed, and it's something I'm personally leaning on more as this develops, is I'm looking for a higher high past this point here, or the point of the A, which is at about 2072.44. If we can get a high back above that and reclaim back below, that's going to complete a much larger bearish setup. And then I would be a little bit more inclined to be bearish on gold. That doesn't necessarily have to happen. That's more of a opportunity for me to take a larger potential short on gold. That's the setup I'm leading more personally, or that's what I'm hoping to see, just because it's a much larger, clearer structure to me, in my opinion. Let's see. Drew, great job. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping by. It's good to see you. Hope you're enjoying the TA here and hope you're having a good day. Let me just go over the bullish setup that formed or completed this ABC. This is A to a B to a C here. And as long as gold is above that 1677, I'm definitely going to be bullish, a little bit more bullish on gold, and I'm going to be definitely looking for at least a test of that new high. All right. That's going to be it for gold. I'm going to do silver quick, just because silver has been developing a little bit differently. There's a couple of things to notice or to point out. One of the things is that now I know we do have a much larger ABC going back to, the 80s. I'm going to mark that out. But like I said, with these much larger multi-decade, possible multi-lifetime ABCs here, you got to give some wiggle room as of terms of how exact this is going to respect it. Now you can see here we did get a slight wick back above and we did reject from there. It can happen. doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen every single time. So keeping that in mind, I want to mostly focus on this being an A to a B to a C. All right. We have a three-wave formation here, another three-wave formation here, and then I'm looking for a larger potential upside. Now, the B doesn't necessarily have to end down here. I can give an argument for another push to the downside here, as this can be another A to a B to a C. All right. Now, for this part, I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit just because I want to illustrate something. So, we're going to keep this pivot in mind just so we know that even though if this low does break, there's still the option of a ABC forming, and we can still come up and put in another high. Right. The other alternative is that this section of price action here can actually be an A to a B to a C. Now, as long as we don't put in a high past this pivot here, we could still form an ABC and still come down to test that $11 region. All right. So just keep that in mind as well. If we come back above here and we come back below, that can still complete a larger B, and then we can still come down and put in a lower low here. As long as we don't put in another high past that $49 region, that's definitely a possible short setup as well. So now that we now that we understand the possible options for gold here, we can take not majority of the guesswork, but we can do a good job at understanding what the possibilities are. And from there, we can go ahead and mark out the available options or the available trades that you can take to capitalize on it, regardless of what direction or what setup you're looking at. Sometimes it's not as clear cut as this, but I do like this as an example, as trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and from there being able to understand and possibly make a good trading decision based off of the availability of each play or each setup that we talked about before. So that's pretty much it. I know Vlad wants you to do BMW, so I will absolutely do that for him. Let's see. No problem, my friend. Let's go to a 2-day. So primarily I'm looking at this as a larger A to a B to a C. All right. That's the much larger macro. Now, in order for me to see that setup be completed, I would need a high of past that 124.25 region to be broken. So I'm going to highlight that. All right. Now, what's going on in between? There's a couple different variations. One of the main things I want to talk about is, let's go to 8-hour. Is this here. Now we can tell, like from last time we spoke, I'll go ahead and just highlight the main thing first. This is a much larger A. We do have a low here as a B, and then we possibly have a continuation higher to a C. Now, until this low is broken down here at this pivot at 67.71, we do have a completed setup. It's not the healthiest in my opinion. The other variation of what possibly could be happening is we do have a larger A to a B to a C. All right, and we're currently dancing around that region. That pivot is at about, let me make sure I got it right. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. So that pivot is at about 84.50. If we can get back below above that, if we can get back below that, I don't know why that was a bunch of word salad. That is going to complete a possible A to a B to a C here. All right. If that is the case, and if we do get a lower low past 67.71, I'm definitely going to be looking for that larger B wave to complete. And then we can go back and put this together as a much larger A to a B to a C. That's primarily what I'm looking for. All right. And as well as, if we come up here, if we do complete this setup, which I just mentioned, um, if we do complete this setup, we do have that high as well as the macro high. So depending on which level it decides to break, it can come up here, not break the 125 or 124 region, and still come back down and continue lower. But those are the main um, opportunities I see for BMW. If we can remain back below 84.63, the next step is to get back below 67.71, and from there I can look for a new high to be put in. So that's primarily what I'm looking at. Those are the main options for BMW, and yeah, that's gonna pretty much wrap it up for traditional assets here. I know there's a couple of you watching, and as well as you guys are hanging out here in Discord. If you have any questions regarding ABCs, my setups, trading in general, please feel free to ask. Now's the time to do so. We're just gonna hang out here for a little bit. If you guys have any questions, if not, we're gonna wrap it up here shortly. Yeah, I'm getting better at this as I get along. So so what, like, as the year's closing off, you mean, or just a? Let's see. Before I do that, Drew, thanks, sir. Just now learning, interesting take on charts. Yeah. So, Drew, if you are interested in learning, I do have my own particular strategy that I use. It's called the ABC method. I adopted this from a friend of mine, and I've been currently using it for the past, let's say, 2 years. If you guys are interested in learning that or learning how it works, please feel free to check out the channel. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you guys see that? Oh no, you can't. Let me go ahead and switch. Uh, oh, that's my face. Go ahead and check out the channel here. I do stream on my channel twice to 3 times a week. I'm going to try to aim for, as well as I do release videos every once in a while talking about certain things. If you're interested, please feel free to check it out. Tune in to live streams, or I am in David's Discord as well. If you're coming from David's channel, you guys feel free to ask me on David's Discord, as well as you guys can private message me as well if you have anything specific you want to ask me, as well as I have my own Discord. Information is going to be that is in the link of the description of any of these videos. Um, Feel free to check it out if you guys are interested in learning more from me, but not necessarily required though. Like I said, you do have access to me on different platforms here. I'm just going to go back and switch over to, and I want to talk about one thing because Vlad here in the Discord did ask an interesting question, so I do want to give my perspective on that real quick. Let's see. Well, thanks, Johnny. Thank you so much, my friend Drew. Thank you for stopping by. I really do appreciate you. Hopefully, I can help you out. So one of the things, so Vlad brought up a question asking about the year close and what my opinions are on that. I do have an interesting take, but it's not necessarily on the year close. It's about a specific date in general, actually. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but for some reason, December 17th always marks a market pivot throughout Bitcoin's history. Now, it's not exact, like December 17th is not the exact time that which it happens, but it usually happens within there in the end of the year. So, which kind of goes into the subject of market cycle changes and all that. I do want to just show you guys, I want to mark that out first to show you guys how, let's see, it's December 17th. Control, oh, shoot. Let's see. I want to mark out December 17th here a couple times just to show you guys interesting things. Was that the 17th? But for some reason, on December 17th, it's not always the case, but December 17th has marked either the change or close to a change in market structure. We're gonna do like one or two more. Come on, where is it? All right. So for some reason, over the course of Bitcoin's history, December 17th has done a couple things. Going back to the bull market in 2016, it was the break of the previous high, almost to the exact date. It was the break of the previous high, and it started the new bull market. The next year, December 17th, was almost the exact top of Bitcoin's price of the Bitcoin bull market back in 2017. The next December 17th was pretty much the bottom of the bear market. All right. The next one wasn't perfect this time, but December 17th was the bottom of this downtrend. We had a retest and we had to basically retest the upside and continuation. 2020 was the start of the bull market, of the break of the 20K high. That started the bull market pressure, and that created that began the future upside, or the much larger upside price action. Here wasn't exact, but from there on out, pretty much confirmed a bear market. So I don't know why it happens. I don't know why it works. It's like maybe some superstitious thing, but Vlad, I'm sure you can agree. It's weird how the timing of this does happen. So the question is, there's two different things that can happen. One, December 17th is coming up here shortly. Actually, hold on. When's the exact date of December 17th? Is that's a Saturday. So this coming Saturday. Now, I have a different, I guess, hypothesis, or I have a different theory of what could be happening. I personally think that something like this back in 2019 is going to happen. Right? We had a larger, we had a larger, I guess, downtrend. December 17th comes around that time. I think we're going to reverse, put in a pump, and I think we're going to have one more continuation to the downside. That's my personal belief on how I think this is going to go. Obviously, I could be wrong. The other scenario is maybe that we could do something like we did in 2018 to where we put in a bottom. And maybe this could be a reversal, or this could be a start of a larger bull market. It could absolutely be in the cards as well. But it's just something, it's a strange time. It's a strange date that for some reason over the course of Bitcoin's past has dictated, for some reason, I couldn't say that, dictated a certain turn of events, whether it's been the bottom of a bear market, the top of a bull market, or a potential bottom in general. Like in this case, during the COVID dump, we had a retest of the upside and a continuation. I personally am on the fence of that a little bit more. But I'm also willing to accept that this could be the beginning of a bull market as well. So keep that in mind. I know you guys if you guys were listening before, I did give my bias on what could be happening. But like I said, I try to play both sides of the coin here. Going back to what I just said, as well as the structure setup, if Bitcoin can pump around that time and also put in a high or get back above 17,600, me personally, that looks pretty damn good. Especially with the timing going on. I wouldn't be surprised if we put in a much larger retest to the upside. As well as it wouldn't surprise me if this was a potential bottom of the bear market as well. I'm not dead set on this being the bottom of the bear market just yet, but as price does continue upwards, if it does, I'm willing to absolutely say that, you know what, this was the bottom, and I can fall on that sword if needed. But as of right now, I personally think that I think we're due to a retest of the upside. I'm not 200% dead set on lower 10K region yet. Um, but it very well could happen. It could be a situation to where we maybe it might take a little bit past that December 17th date to make a final decision. So that is on the cards as well. But just keep that in mind. Definitely a possibility. So yeah, Vlad, that's my personal opinion. That's a great question. I might make a separate video on this just to talk about it's gonna be a stupid thing. It's something I don't really bank on, but I think it's very interesting to see how if you go back in Bitcoin's price history, how December 17th has dictated a lot of turning points in the market cycle changes. That's just my opinion. So let's see. Boris, sorry, I just got to your question here. Do you use any other strategies or indicators to predict where your B and C will go? For example, is there the vector candle somewhere or an order block? Me personally, Boris, I do not. Um, I don't necessarily use that just because a lot of the times when I'm looking at ABCs, once I see an A develop, to me, how the B forms doesn't necessarily matter that much. Let me just show you guys something. Actually, let me go back here. Let me just give you this as an example. Oh, I can't make this go any faster. There we go. All right. So we do have a clear break in trend off of this downtrend, and we had a pop. For me, this is considered an A. All right. Regardless of how price action behaves in between here, the most important thing for me to look at is this low going to be broken? So what I do is I use the current entry bot that I'm working with, and I will basically set parameters to say, okay, if it gets back below and gets back above, enter automatically for me. So regardless of how price behaves in between here, the most important pivot is the larger structure. And as you can see, as this develops, this A becomes more solidified. It becomes more valid. Eventually it'll do it. But pretty much that's the main point of it. Is as soon as there you go, right there. You put in a lower low, it automatically entered me in, and I'm basically just waiting for price to react or make a decision based off of that move. And as you can see, we did pump here. So now the next step for me, when it comes to going back into price action and understanding how I view the structure here. Now we do have an A to a B to a C. All right. Regardless of how price behaves anywhere here, I have my marked out A as a short position that's available. So if we get back above and get back below, I will short it just in case this is a larger market reversal. Now, going forward, this has the potential to be a larger A to a larger B forming to a C. Now that I have the A that's available here, I still have the entry down here. Okay. That's 16,800. That's still an available entry. Until we get a high past that 17,445, I'm going to be taking that 16,800 entry. And until we get that high broken, that's my entry, because regardless of how this behaves, I still have a set entry available, as well as if we do put in availability of a new high, that pivot's already there. So regardless of how price behaves here, if we never get a high past here, perfect. I'll take the 16,800. If we do come back down and let's say we form a lower low and then come back up, unfortunately, you are going to get stopped out of that trade. But the availability of the 17,440 region being the new entry becomes a lot more available and a lot more likely to happen. So, um, that's my opinion, Boris. That's how I approach my entries. Um, because of how I view things, I necessarily don't need to use any other indicators to kind of validate or give me a confirmation of a certain point, just because price structure itself allows me to see the available setups. Let's see. Getting to a pinch point on BTC, got to break one way or the other. Absolutely, Drew. I do agree with that. I think we will get an answer here soon, maybe this week. If not, definitely closer to the end of the year. I think we will absolutely get an answer. But Boris, if hopefully, let me know if that answers that question for you. If you need further clarification, I definitely can do that for you as well. All good, thanks. No problem. Hopefully it helps. And like I said, I'm in the Discord as well. I'm active. So Boris, if you have any other questions, if you want to look more into this, please let me know. Please feel free to ask. I'm definitely an open book. I think yeah, I'll probably do that. That's what I was. I'll take time out of my Saturday and do that. Yeah. I absolutely will do that. That's phenomenal. That's a good idea, Vlad. I might have to do that. I might have to throw a party. I absolutely. All credits to you, Vlad. That's funny. Uh, hold on. There's no, hold on. One just popped up here. Drew asked, "You stick mostly to day time frame trading?" So for me, time frame is important, but perspective is the most important thing. Is being able to see whatever you're looking at on the appropriate time frame. Now, what I always say is what I tell everyone here is that I stick to around a 30-minute to a 2 hour. That's like the sweet spot for me, right? But the most important thing is that regardless of what time frame you're at, the most important thing is to take your mouse wheel and scroll all the way out. Right? Until you can't scroll out anymore, you have to be able to see the available setup regardless of it does matter what setup you're looking at. One of the things I like to do is that as a kind of a confirmation. Now you can pinch on this perspective, you just can't zoom in. All right. Making sure you're zoomed out as much as possible, making sure that you can see the available setup on a good perspective. Um, Most of the time, if the setup's good, you'll be able to see that on the 2 hour, on the 1 hour, on the 30. Most likely the 1 to 2 hour. If you can see it on the 1 to 2 hour, if you're completely zoomed out, that's a good size trade to take. One of the problems that people run into when they use this strategy is that they like to take the ABC idea and they like to go to a 30-minute or even like a 15-minute. But the problem is they'll sit there and do this. They'll zoom in and try to find every single small ABC that they can find. I could sit here and say, oh, look, ABC here, reversal. We have another ABC here. We have another ABC here. Another ABC here. All right. So, like, the problem is a lot of people, what some people do come across is that they find themselves zooming into too much and not focusing on the larger perspective. And when you guys focus on the larger perspective, on the larger time frames, sticking to a 30-minute to a 2 hour, you'll find out what setups and what levels are the most important to stick to. And that's the most important thing is a lot of the times you're not going to be able to figure that out if you're on such a very small time frame or if you're zoomed too far in. You have to be able to understand and view the most important levels for you to actually take a trade off of. So, great question, Drew. Smash the like button. Absolutely, guys. If you guys like this type of content, like I said, I plugged the channel in before. I would love to have you over. It is I'll go ahead. Actually, no, I'll drop a link in a description here. But guys, I would appreciate it. All right. Yep, hopefully. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna on the exact date it's gonna happen, but I think relatively soon it's gonna happen. But I'll definitely be streaming on the 17th talking about it. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my god. All right, I might have to. Maybe I'll do it. Oh no. Jesus. All right. I can't wait. I don't know if I'm gonna do 24 hours, but I'll definitely do an extended live stream. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but all right, guys. Thanks again. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, I'm gonna be tuning in at least once a week here. If I can figure something out on my schedule wise, I'll tune in another day, and hopefully, price action gets a little bit more exciting. But yeah, thanks again, folks. I really do appreciate you. Until next time. Now you know the plan. Trade the plan. Make sure you mark your calendars for December 17th. I will be live. I don't know for how long. Vlad's trying to get me to do an all 24-hour one. I don't know if I'll do that. But we'll see. We'll see. Bye bye, everyone.